Welcome to Self-Perfected.
And
Perfect time.
people-
Oh, perfect timing. Look who just came into the room
Oh shit!
too.
Oh my gosh! Watch it be Max.
That'd be
Watch
hilarious,
Max.
right?
Watch Max hacked in and overrode Cameron's controls, and now
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
deep faking as Cameron.
that'd be
Hey,
great.
You guys, this
Hey,
might be a deep fake of Cameron.
Cam, so we saw that you dropped out, so we just started just now, and you just happened to come in at the right time.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like the Wi-Fi wouldn't work, my cell wouldn't work. I'm like driving around right now because like even like where I was sitting outside wouldn't work. I'm not, now I just started driving. I don't know what is going on.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Wow.
It's a directed energy weapon.
I was just gonna say, or it sounds like a cyber attack. Perfect reason.
Or Elon Musk cut off your Starlink.
yeah. You talked way
I haven't
too
even
much
got
shit
my
about Elon.
Starlink yet.
He's already cut it
That's
off.
what happens. No, before they install the Starlink, they actually do a series of tests to see how difficult of a client you're going to be.
Yeah.
So you're passing the test. Look at you.
Yeah. Yeah, so far you're adapting. That's good.
I was actually wondering, like, can I take the Starlink satellite receiver and like put it on in a car and like drive around with it? Is it possible?
Maybe
Can you take it with you?
Yeah, or like, because I mean, you're in small Western town. Like, can you put it on text your horse and you could like ride around your horse with it?
Oh,
There you go.
sounds
Now
like
we're
a terrible
talking.
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. That's what I'm picturing. You're like, I'm driving around, like you're on text, right?
You mean you're driving a team of horses, right? That's what
Yes.
you mean.
My stagecoach.
There you go.
Okay, have you or have you not seen a stagecoach in Jefferson since you've been there, Cameron?
When have I not seen a stagecoach?
Okay, just
You
checking.
know, the technology problems make sense because there's this big mural in town. In fact, in my office, because it's like I'm in a historic building or something, and so they have all this like old art.
We're losing you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You're going too fast. You're going
Yeah.
too fast. Slow
Yeah.
down, Tex. Whoa.
Whoa, Tex. Whoa.
For anyone who doesn't know, Cameron lives in Texas and has a horse.
And he rides horses. Well, I don't know. Probably hasn't ridden a horse in a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you kind of cut out there, Cam. So maybe if you go to the
Yeah,
second
maybe
floor
so.
of that one saloon, like the second level, where it's like a Western shootout, and you're like, pew, pew. Maybe they got better service up there.
Maybe that'll help my internet service.
Yeah, because you're higher to the satellites. You're closer to the
Sure.
gods.
That's
Maybe I just need to do like a Wi-Fi dance.
there you go. Yeah.
Maybe you just need to pray, Cameron. Okay, you ever consider that one?
Yes.
or meditate on the Wi-Fi. Just let it come to
Visualize.
you. Yeah.
Visualize the
I don't understand-
Wi-Fi frying.
I don't understand why we
yourself.
need. I don't understand why we need technology if the law of attraction works.
Yeah. It's a great. That's actually. Well, no, Cameron.
Why
Obviously,
do you need any technology at all?
you can fly.
Why do you
know?
need to even be alive?
Yeah. Why do you need a body?
This is why they do those cults where they just drink the Kool-Aid and kill themselves.
Oh, that's
I
it.
understand now.
Yeah.
That's totally going to be taken out of context with me in my self-perfected hat. Someone's going to make like a deep fake. Like,
Yeah.
do it. I knew they had a cult with the Kool-Aid and they were trying to get everyone.
We've been trying to. Well, Joe says it every time. Every hangout, he's like, "I drank the Kool-Aid." Oh, no, that's great. You know what's funny about that though is like, people say you're drinking the Kool-Aid. It's like, but in reality, the Kool-Aid kills you. It's not.
Like,
It's not.
you mean like real Kool-Aid from like,
No, I mean like in those cults. In the reality, the Kool-Aid
Yeah.
kills you, right? So if you drank the
well,
Kool-Aid,
well, hang on. There's two different Kool-Aid references for you
Okay,
history
alright.
buffs out there. Okay, the first Kool-Aid, I don't know actually in which time sequence, we could fact check this, but
Mhm.
one of the Kool-Aids was referring to the thing in, what was it, Guyana? Hey, Christine, RIP to any of your ancestors. I don't mean to offend you. Okay. but wasn't it in Guyana?
With Jamestown,
Yeah, Jonestown.
Jonestown, whatever it's called.
Yeah, Jim
Okay.
Jones.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's like in your DNA, Christine. That's why you're like really into the whole cult thing. But it's cool. I dig it. This is too much for Cameron. He's triggered. He just fell off. But so there's that one. But then the other Kool-Aid that I think people are more referring to when they're like, "Oh yeah, the Kool-Aid man," is the electric Kool-Aid acid test by Ken Kesey, where they would go around and they would do. They had a school bus, and I think they started in either San Francisco or somewhere on the West Coast where they had nothing better to do, and they would go and they would distribute LSD to the masses. And then there was what was called the electric Kool-Aid acid test, where you could take a certain amount of LSD without like going crazy. And if you could handle it, you could like travel with them and be in their crew. And
Oh,
so, and then, but then it got like co-opted. So like Timothy Leary was in it and all these guys. But then there was a lot of like the CIA was watching what they were doing because they wanted to see how did LSD affect everyone's minds. I mean, if you never looked at what MK Ultra, that shit's crazy. I don't know. I probably said enough buzzwords that now all the conspiracy theorists are just loving this episode and everyone else is just thinking I'm a conspiracy theorist. But it's
dude,
actually
I
a
did.
good book.
I did not know about the electric Kool-Aid acid test. That's pretty cool.
Really?
Is
I
it
didn't
cool?
know about that. That's my first
Wow.
time hearing about this. Like,
Fucking
Oh.
noob.
no, hey, hang on. Hang on. All right. Listen, have you read this book?
The electric Kool-Aid acid test. Drake's learning how to read, guys. He's learning how to
No.
process information.
Have you read this book, Be Here Now?
Actually, no, because I was like, I already know how to do that. Fucking Ram Dass. I don't
Well,
need to-
I couldn't read it because I was just too busy just being here now. I'm like, why do I need to read something? That
Bro.
takes place in time.
Yeah.
Bro,
Process in time.
clearly you guys were not high
I read the
on
title and I was
acid.
like, got it.
It's like, why? Okay. That's like, it looks like a child. Like, it looks like I've seen children with better handwriting than what's in the book.
You weren't in
Yeah,
the
my-
right state to read it, clearly. Okay.
Oh, is that how it is?
Yeah. You got to be in one of those states, and then it just
You
pops
gotta
out.
be drinking. You gotta be drinking the Kool-Aid.
You got to be drinking the
Hey.
Kool-Aid.
What answers did you get, Drake?
So
Take more
the
drugs.
Like you
So
feel
the high
you feel
doesn't wear
some
off.
intuitive, like, oh, there's something here, and then you're off the acid, and you're like, anyways, back to work.
that's right. That's right. No,
It's like the power of now, the Eckhart Tolle thing. He's like sitting on a park bench, like contemplating suicide, and then apparently he like wakes up somehow. It's like, okay, now what? Go back to fucking.
You realize, oh, instead of killing myself, I should just be here now.
it-
Okay, well, I was already doing that.
No,
Oh, I
the-
know what
the-
I'll do.
The power,
I know what to
power
do.
of now.
I'll write a book and get famous and go on Oprah and like make a lot of money and be a seminar speaker.
That's it.
But
That's it.
but in my seminars, I'm just gonna tell everybody just be here now. It's just the power of now.
Yeah.
What does that even
That's
mean? Did you read the book, anybody? I never read the book.
I never read that one. That one was not appealing to me.
Someone's probably listening to this like so fucking triggered right now. Like, no,
Yeah.
you just don't understand.
You
I was on a park bench too one time, and I was so fucking sad.
didn't even read it. You didn't even read Eckhart Tolle. He's my hero.
A New Earth too. That one. Oh, people are like, oh yeah, A New Earth is such a brave book. You know,
We don't need a new Earth.
Who's that one by?
Eckhart Tolle. His,
Oh.
his famous follow-up.
Not famous to me.
A New Earth. It's like actually like Elon Musk fucking commissioned him to try and sell everyone on like leaving this Earth for another Earth.
Oh,
I get it.
yeah, that makes sense.
Programming. Yeah. Actually, Bernard had a really funny blog where he was like pulling apart that idea of the power of now. He's like, it's actually just the power of cash. It's literally exactly what it is.
That makes sense.
And then everyone
That's why
like,
it's cool to
feels-
study Destiny. It's like you start to see through all this stuff. People, like you're joking about the Kool-Aid stuff, and it's like the Destiny is the opposite of Kool-Aid
Exactly.
because you can study it, and if you treat it as Kool-Aid, that's on you, and it's not. You're not doing it.
Yeah. You know what?
Because Kool-Aid is just like you're adopting another belief system,
We
right?
were
So,
talking about that on Friday.
yeah. Okay.
Sorry to cut you off. You sound robotic at times, and I just
Sorry to cut myself out.
sorry to cut you off. I'm just gonna cut you off. Just shut up. Just mute this guy. God.
We still don't even know if it's actually Cameron. This could be some fucking deep fake shit.
I've not seen his face.
I like it. An element of mystery.
Yeah.
So what were you saying, Drake, on Friday? You're saying
No, that's what we were talking about. I'm just like, hey, you need to go and investigate this stuff for yourself. Otherwise, it's just going to be something that somebody else said that, like, even if it's something good that somebody tells you, like, hey, you should quit drinking or quit smoking or quit doing drugs or quit abusing other people, you know, and you're like, oh, I can't believe they told me to do that. Like, you know, it's good for you, but you don't actually know. You're just doing it because somebody else told you and it sounded good. And you're like, yeah, but you're not investigating the point for yourself. You don't come to the conclusion on your own. That's a fucking problem.
Or it's the alternative too, where you do it because you're like, oh, I guess that does sound good. Yeah, okay, I will do that. But you still don't question it. It's still the same. It's like two sides of the same coin.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you not actually able to go and reason it out for yourself and to stand as that. Because then it's one thing to have it as knowledge and information. It's another thing when you're like, oh, this is actually how it fucking works.
It's a lot like, you know, people will look at, okay, for instance, we've harped on this point so many times, but it's been a while, right? Like people will look at Jesus and be like, I can't do that. I can't be like Jesus.
I can't have that. I can't have those blue eyes and that blonde fucking hair.
I can't have that blonde. Oh, I just can't. I can't.
Well, you know, part of the problem though is he's literally painted as like a miracle worker superhero.
Right.
So of course you will think that you can. And that's part of the whole point. Instead of just being like a normal person.
Right. Right.
It's like, oh, if you just walk the process and you make the changes, you do the points, you write, you forgive yourself, you apply the points, like then you can do it. That is the doing it.
You could stand as equal to Jesus, like as in supporting this world to be one that is best for all, or as Jesus put it, loving thy neighbor as thyself, right? Doing unto others as you want done unto you. Like all of that, you'd be equal to that actually. And people will make the excuse that, no, you can't do that. Like, God, you know, it's just like, you didn't actually consider it or investigate it, or like you're just taking it like somebody from the pulpit, you know, the pastor said these words and you're like, yes. Or your parents told you like, you got to go to church and this is what it says in the Bible. And you're like, you can't even read. you can't even read. So you're like, is that what it says? I don't know.
You know what I just realized?
That you can't read?
No.
But you can read.
That Christians literally drink the Kool-Aid.
Well, they drink wine.
That's what I'm saying though. Like they literally
it's the
have
blood of
a
Christ,
Kool-Aid.
Cameron. Okay.
They have an actual drink they drink as a ritual every time. And then people would be like, oh, you drink the Kool-Aid, man. It's like, did you go to church?
Do you have communion? Because you
And
drink
let's
Kool-Aid.
just say, let's just take the religion part out of it, right? Like people go on the weekends and drink. That's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
You know, and then the Muslims are going to be like, well, we don't drink. I'm like, yeah, but you're all obsessed with soccer. It's the same fucking thing.
Is that their thing? Soccer?
I think so. I think that's the one thing I can say definitely Muslims are addicted to, soccer. Like watching, I don't know. Is it? I feel like it is.
I don't know what their thing is.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's gotta be something.
Yeah.
You don't know about what? Soccer?
I don't know.
Or it might just be praying. Yeah, I think it's just.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
That's another form of the Kool-Aid. It's like you recite the prayers.
There's definitely some cool points about Islam, like the discipline that's required within it.
Yeah.
But
it has to come from you though. That's the thing.
Right. It's still accepting a higher power.
It's an imposed discipline versus like, you know, it's from your own discipline. You know, it's
still accepting a higher power, and then
accepting.
It's all about the afterlife.
Yeah. Also accepting punishment.
Oh, I was having a really cool chat today with Joe. He brought his family up here for the clubhouse yesterday, and they live like 3 hours away. So sometimes they'll stay over here.
Oh wow.
And it's well, actually, I don't think 2 hours. I don't know, somewhere not close. So this morning we were having a really cool chat because he's like really already starting to see his life considerably change. Like he's making more money than he's ever made. Like noticeably, he's like, yeah, I'm a better communicator. That turned into me making more money. Like great. But then also like his relationship with his son, his relationship with his wife, they're like, it's just it's so cool. I mean, I will do some proper like, testimonial thing with him at some point. But we were chatting about this morning, how he's really looking at like what is the purpose of life, because how he had grown up, it was kind of told to him and pre-programmed into him of like, you're not really gonna make it past 20 or 25 or something, just because he came from a very rough, let's say, background. And he had a old guy he knew, somebody from back in the day that like recently passed away. And so he was just like reflecting on that this morning, and I was sitting outside with him chatting. He's like, yeah, like what is he's like, how do you phrase it? I don't want to like I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm kind of summarizing it. He's like, I'm not ready to die yet. Like I know there's so much more that I can give. Something along the lines of that. And it was fascinating because like imagine that was the Kool-Aid given to him, was like, hey, you ain't gonna live that long. Like you're just gonna, do this and do this for your family, do this for whatever. But now he's able to see like, no, I can actually make a real impact in this world. I can leave it a better world for my son. Like that's pretty cool. Cause that's and then we were chatting because he grew up, and I know he won't mind me saying this, but he's like, because he said on the Hangouts, he'd been in different churches, and there were different churches that he either got kicked out of or whatever because he didn't follow the rules, or his family didn't follow the they weren't drinking the Kool-Aid like the church wanted them to drink the Kool-Aid.
Right.
And we were talking about how like so many people are really passionate about the afterlife, and the afterlife is all that matters. As I consider, as you get more in the group and you study the destiny stuff for yourself, like what if it's in reverse? What actually matters is what's here and not the hereafter. Or maybe there, and he could see it for himself. He's like, yeah, why would, if there is some afterlife, why would, like, if you're an asshole here, why would you be granted some afterlife? Like, that doesn't make sense. But like,
Right.
what if you just did it right here? It's like, yeah, what if? And not to have some hope of like, oh, if you're good here, it'll be good after. But it's like, if you just do what's best here, then no matter where you find yourself, whether it's in this body or some other afterlife, whatever, it's who you are. You're gonna make it the best it can be.
That's a
Yeah.
great point, because there's like that other aspect of it where it's like, if all that matters is the afterlife, as in I can live a very not just mediocre, but like I don't need to like try to have things in this life. I don't need to try to make this life good. I can be very austere, that sort of thing. And then my gifts will be in heaven, there's that same idea. It's the same thing, right? But it's just another way of people going like, ignore what's here, ignore reality, and just put it off to like some idea out there. What were you gonna say, Cam?
Well, it's just like there's this obvious logical point that people don't process. That's it's like the basic point that when you even consider this idea of an afterlife, you see it as disconnected from the reality you're in right now. And then there's this point of, well, it's just some total other reality, and I'm not in charge of it. Like it's somebody else is in charge of it. Somebody else makes it work. It's somebody else's rules, and then they've kind of given us a glimpse of what, the rules are for here, that if I do stuff a certain way here, then I'll be able to go there. And it's like,
You know
you
what
don't
it's like?
understand any of it. It's so there's this disconnect of everything is reality. Like there can't be a reality outside of reality.
People are, but hang on, before you go there, people look at the afterlife sort of like as if they have DID. Like I'm going to completely disassociate with this identity, And then I will have this new identity, and there will be amnesia in between. I won't remember. That's
You know, and I was, what was I watching? I was looking at some video, and okay, I'm trying to remember what it was. It was something about, it was somebody criticizing. Oh, okay. It was somebody reviewing a video of Noah Yuval Harari.
Mhm.
Right, and in the video, it was kind of similar to that one video we watched.
I think his name is
Where-
Yuval Noah Harari.
Yeah, I know,
Everything's
but
in reverse.
You said you
I
know?
was, that's what I call him.
Oh, you know.
Instead of Yuval Noah, I just call him
you know Harari.
Huh? So,
Huh?
anyways, he was making some points he's made before, but the point about, I like the way he phrased it. He was like, he said, all the major religions have always, he kind of said it like, imagined or wanted to believe, something like that, that they have a sacred scripture written by a non-human intelligence, right?
Mhm.
And so his point being, it's only a matter of time before AI writes its own scriptures and people accept that. And it's like, he was trying to say, like, AI will become the actual religion that people are looking for, because it is a non-human intelligence that will be writing information.
Yeah.
And even if, in the way I look at it, even if they don't see it as a religion, they'll see it, it'll serve the function of God to people.
For sure.
Like, meaning they won't necessarily be like, oh, this is God, and believe it is God, because they know it's man-made, but they'll trust it as the truth and as infallible and something that they should trust.
Right.
And put their life, their life in its hands.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but it was interesting because he was making all these points about religion. It was just that point. Each religion believes or imagines that it has this sacred truth written by a non-human intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And the person who made the video, I wasn't really interested in their commentary, but I'm pretty sure like they were Christian. So it was one of those videos of like, look, this guy is like the Antichrist, kind of a thing, and he's bringing forth all the anti-Christian, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, but how is he wrong? You say, well, but Christianity is true, right? God, wrote it. And I'm like, oh no, he wasn't talking about Christianity. He was talking about Islam. Or no, oh no, he wasn't talking about Islam. He was talking about Buddhism. In other words, how does the religious person reconcile that there's another person with another religion where they have all the same facts and evidence and proof and feelings and experiences and
Well, that's obvious.
traditions and all this stuff that says something else, but those are all obviously wrong, even though the way in which you've come to the conclusion that your religion is correct is in the same way that they did.
Right. So, okay, check this out. A little bit different topic, but you're gonna like this. Because I just remembered this literally as I was doing the clubhouse yesterday. I literally just remembered that I remember watching a documentary about zombies, right? Yeah. And like actual
28 days
zombies.
later.
Oh, you saw it.
Yeah.
Damn. I thought I was the only one who saw this documentary.
Pandemic 3.
Okay, hey, no spoilers, guys. No spoilers.
The Biden administration's latest press conference.
These are good.
The Joel Osteen Sunday live stream.
Wow, coming up, my boy Joel. No, but it was a documentary where, like, where the term zombie even comes from, or at least according to this documentary, was from voodoo, from African cultures that practice voodoo, right? And they went to one of these countries in Africa, and they met with like a voodoo witch doctor, and they wanted to study, like, apparently this guy was claiming that he could make zombies, like, and he could show them a zombie. And like throughout the course of the documentary, they're like following this guy around. They're like finding out how is this possible, whatever. They're looking at the culture, all that stuff. And they find that there's a concoction that he makes. And then this concoction that he makes is like, it's got some form of like pufferfish toxin in it. And like pufferfish, if you don't know, it's got this toxin in it where if you go to like a really fancy restaurant, like in Japan, let's say, they'll keep just a little touch of this toxin so that when you eat it, it's like a delicacy. You eat it, like your whole face tingles up and stuff like that, right? But if they, and it's like just this minuscule amount, and if they do too much, it could literally paralyze you or it could cause you to die, right? And so apparently like this concoction that he makes has a bit of this toxin in it. It's got some like human bones in it, like all these like weird things, right? And they ask him for this concoction. They're like, hey, can we get that from you? And like he makes them jump through all these hoops or whatever. At the end of it, he ends up making them pay, you know, what to him is a lot of money in order to have this concoction. And so then they get this concoction from him and they analyze it in a lab. And when they analyze it, they're like, there's nothing that kind of stands out. Like there's not like, we're not even finding, maybe there's a trace amount of this toxin. I don't know. But then they try it. They actually like literally give it to like one of the cameramen to try this concoction. He's like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. Right? They're like, we think it's safe, but you know, does anybody want to try it? He tries it and nothing happens to him. Right? But literally they watch this guy, they watch this witch doctor give this concoction to people and they're paralyzed. Like they're dropped in the street, paralyzed for hours. And like they just took this concoction, nothing happened to them. But these
Maybe he
other
didn't
people,
give him the real thing.
maybe he didn't give him the real thing, right?
The Kool-Aid.
But
Zombie Kool-Aid.
but what they said was because then he takes these people, he brings them into a room, he does some ritual with them, and then afterwards they see these people and they're like working for this witch doctor, like, but like as a slave, like basically like as if they have no mind of their own. They're just doing whatever the witch doctor says. And like, they said their reasoning for it was this. They said, you know, what they think happened is this guy has this concoction or whatever, and it's more so just like a placebo. Like it's got all, like there's this all this folklore around it. These people are brought up with this culture. They're brought up with this understanding, this fear, this massive fear. Because even if you just talk to them about the witch, they're like, "Whoa, that's you know, we don't want to upset anybody. Come on, like just let them be, right?" But like they're brought up in this culture where it affects them that seriously. Like it activates this fear within them. It affects them that seriously, where they go into the character of what they believe is how you act when you are a zombie, right? And I was just looking at that and thinking like, because I've definitely seen going into other countries, I've definitely seen like, they'll have these superstitions where they're like so serious about it. And like, you know, I'm like, and I'll go do the thing that they're like so dead serious, like you should not ever do that, and nothing happens. But to them, there's like, oh my God, you're gonna be cursed. Like, and it seems really silly to us because we weren't brought up with that culture, right? But in the same way, we do have a culture here, and it's affecting our youth here. Like, just look at all the stuff that's going on with like transgenderism, you know, all the stuff where like the way that kids are being brought up, what's being told is important to them through the media, through like, you know, different kids. You guys saw that post I made about like Skibbity toilet, right? Like where it's literally a head coming out of a toilet, and 4-year-olds are watching this.
I didn't watch the thing.
Dude, it's
Yeah, I didn't watch
creepy.
it either.
You shouldn't watch it. You shouldn't. I watched it once. I know Jess said the same thing. I literally watched it that one night. I had crazy dreams of heads coming out of toilets. And then the worst part about it was like, it's got a really catchy tune.
Oh shit.
And so then like,
mnemonics right there.
yeah. And so then like, you just keep playing it in your head over and over and over, because it's just so catchy. And you're like, geez, I don't even want to think about this. It's insane. But think of the culture that the kids are being brought up with today, and then how that's going to be later activated within them, where it's like, you know, I told you guys the story about like the little 9-year-old girl who actually believed birds aren't real, actually believed that. And she's 9 years old. And that seems just so silly to us because like, but it seems silly to us because we know with certainty that's not the case. But kids don't even know with certainty if they're a boy or a girl.
This reminds me so
True.
much of in 1984, how they rewrite the dictionary. It's like literally without vocabulary, you lose touch of reality.
Yes.
And we're at such a point now where people, their vocabulary is already so fucked, they can't even see, not everyone, but a lot of people can't even see the value of vocabulary. So
Yeah.
that's our job, is to paint it in 1,000 different ways to help people see that, oh shit, you're right, my words do matter, as they
Yeah.
use their words.
Well, what you should do is just make a picture.
With a zombie on it. Because a picture's worth 1,000
words.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one picture, it's gonna just make it crystal clear. It's like, have you ever been to a museum? Everybody's got a different fucking interpretation of the art. So yeah,
Right.
yeah. Pictures are so unambiguous. You're right.
That's the whole point, though. That's the whole point. They want it to be like, oh, but it's special to me because I see it this way and you see it this other way, and like you just can't understand.
That's how people see God, though. That's how people see God. Like, oh, he just means this to me. And you know, if you're Islam, that's fine, and if you're Jewish, that's fine. But I have my God. You
If
know,
a picture is worth 1,000 words, let me ask you a question. How many books are sold each year versus how many silent movies?
I have not seen a silent movie in a while.
I don't think I've ever watched a silent movie.
Right. So this whole idea that a picture's worth a fucking 1,000, it's just some sentimental bullshit of like basically take pictures of shit because you want to remember it later. That's all it is. People use that to argue whether vocabulary is the most important thing. And they'll use words to argue. And I always say to them, just draw me a picture of what you're trying to say.
Right.
But okay, but it's exactly what like Yuval Noah Harari was saying, like that same point of this is what shapes the culture. This will shape that culture. Just look at that in just a few years. In just a few years, if even that, this will be shaping the culture to be activated in another way where it's just like, this is your God now. This is what you follow. And I know, Cam, you're saying like, you know, it doesn't have to be like people see it as like God, but they'll treat it as such. I think to a certain extent, it will be like God to them because, and maybe not the way that we perceive it, but for them, it will be as such because they don't know anything else.
Well, okay. I had a moment where, like, when ChatGPT came out, I was at an event and there was a guy there who he was very like religious. He wasn't like trying to push religion or anything, but I could just tell like he grew up in Mexico and he was like very Catholic and everything. And so I chatted with him throughout the week and all that. And then at one point he's telling me how he has this like car detailing company or whatever. So I asked him, I was like, hey, have you heard of ChatGPT? Like, have you ever messed around with it to see how you can like use it for your business? He's like, no, what's that? So I showed him ChatGPT, and the way he reacted to it was he was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. But you could tell it was like the same thing where that kind of superstition of like, this thing knows everything. He couldn't even comprehend where the information was coming from. He was just so amazed that he could type in some input like a chatbot and it would feed him answers. He's like, this is the coolest thing ever. But it was like that, it's like a very low vocabulary, low processing, where he just saw it like God. It's like omniscient, omnipotent, all that.
Dude.
And he was like inferior to it. But
dude, that's like, okay. I just saw, I was making a post on Instagram, and then of course, just underneath my post are all those little videos that they recommend, right? And I saw one of the videos. I was like, what's going on here? Because there's like this woman holding this really big hoop, and the caption on the top said something about magic. How this is how magic is done, right? And it was a video of a woman. She's holding this hoop, and it's got a big curtain underneath it, right? And she's like jiggling it up further and further higher up. and then you see like it's the shot is the angle is from up in the rafters behind, and you see there's like a little trap door that opens behind her, and then a guy comes out, and then he grabs the top of the hoop once it's like all the way fully above her, and then she drops down into the trap door, and then he drops the curtain, and then like she just changed into a guy, you know. And all the comments were like, well, not all of them, but a lot of them were, it is so disrespectful to reveal how a magic trick is done, because you take the magic away from something. And like, and then like the replies to those comments are like, what are you, a 12-year-old girl? Like, chill out. We know it's magic. We know it's not real, you know. But I'm bringing that up. What were you gonna say, Cam?
I just want to add one story real quick to that. It's kind of related. I saw this video, and it was this woman. She was standing next to, like, you know, in England, how outside of like wherever the king lives, they have like these guards, and they wear like armor, like they're almost like knights, and they have swords and stuff, you know. And it's like, you know, really old school style. And she was trying to take a picture with him, and like, you know, was like touching him, and he like yells at her not to touch the king's guard or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, whoa, like shocked or whatever, you know. And I looked at the comments, and people were like, these are real soldiers protecting the king, like you should not disrespect them, you know, like that kind of same shit. And I'm like, yeah, this guy with a fucking sword is actually protecting the king. He's definitely not just a tourist attraction, you know. But it's like that mentality, people who are like, how disrespectful for her to touch this guy. He's a working soldier, you know. Like, okay, all right,
yeah. So okay, but the reason I was bringing up that magic trick is because like you were saying, this guy doesn't even know, like he saw this chat GPT thing, and he's like, I don't even know where these answers are coming from. I don't know how this is computed, how this works at all. It literally is magic to him, you know. And it's like people have that feeling of magic because they don't know how technology operates. Even they're not able to comprehend it, and so it becomes like, wow. Like, you ever see those videos of like David Blaine in the hood? He's like, David Blaine.
That's not so funny though.
Oh my gosh, he just does like these magic tricks for like some black folks in the hood. It is so hilarious because they get so hyped. They're like, oh shit, like, right? But it's like, okay, that level of, you can't comprehend what's going on, it's magic to you, you're just gonna like, you're gonna be it's gonna have some power over you. It's gonna have that point of mysticism to it, where even if you're like, no, I don't do that, you're still participating in like, there's some sort of magic. Or like, Cam, you remember those videos of leprechauns in the hood?
I was just gonna ask you, have you seen Leprechaun in Mobile, Alabama?
Yeah.
Cam, have you seen this?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that shit is so, I guarantee I will fucking laugh like 3 times. Every time I
Right?
watch
It's it's a 3-lapper. Wow.
that. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
This is like the greatest comedy ever written.
Okay, if no one has seen this,
The Office is a
you need to be able to
2-lapper.
spell before you can search this. Okay, so you got to be able to
The
spell Leprechaun.
entire episode of The Office, you only get 2 laughs. This is like a
This, yeah, it's
5-minute
like
video.
condensed. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, Leprechaun in Mobile, Mobile.
It was a leprechaun. But like, okay, that same sort of mentality of like, I seen him. Like it that's where we're heading right now. I mean, we're already there.
Yes.
We're already there, but it's like, it's getting way, I don't know if worse is the word, or just like more pronounced for sure. It's going to affect way more people with this point of just
Now,
like,
okay, now consider this. How awesome. So I think it was really in the past week, like we got that book in the mail from Aria and Melissa's daughter.
oh yeah.
And like, you now see these techno-tutor kids on some next level shit. Like every few weeks it's like, oh wow, now Max doing chemistry. It's like all this, where,
Dude, yeah.
here's the thing though, I'll just get straight to like the heart of it is, what we're doing is different because, see, if there was, let's say, another kid, one of these savant kids who like wrote a book and it was intriguing and awesome, and everyone's like, oh my God, wow, hey, like look, a leprechaun. It's like, oh, a 5-year-old can write a book. But the whole point for why we do it and why we share this is because it's like, it's not fucking, there's no mysticism in it. It's
Right.
literally just help the kid understand the words. They can then use the words and put things together and create value. And thus Arya wrote a book that now we're able to read to our son and now explain to our son, look, if you want to write a book, you can write a book too, and we can help you share your book. And so it's again, the starting point is one of education and equality instead of a inequality, where everything else in the system is all about that inequality, whether it be, oh, the zombie witch doctor, or you drink the Kool-Aid, or Joel Osteen, or the pastor, or whatever. It's like the whole structure within that is better than, less than.
Right.
So literally, we just remove the polarity, and you just find,
That point of inequality that you're talking about applies to the whole heaven idea, right? Because,
of course, yeah,
like, okay, you're assuming that heaven is this place that you go to, or some state of being that's better, right? And clearly somebody else is in charge of it, whether it's a person or an energy or a force or whatever. It's something else that's not obviously you, based on you and your personal decisions and choices. But then, because of that hope within everyone, we then, the way we live on Earth is we allow a system that is coordinated at much higher levels by actual people. I mean, all of our decisions amount to the system, but there's people who make more specific, decisions. Like you talk about the Federal Reserve decides whether to raise or lower inflation rates. Like, that's a big major decision that has a major effect on everybody's lives, which they do it with the consent of people. But I'm saying there's people who are making that decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the same idea as God making the decisions about how heaven works and so forth. Like, you're not directly making the decision. It's more like you're just accepting and allowing it. And it's like you're trusting this thing, whatever it is, like whether you're Christian, Muslim, whatever, you're trusting this higher power to actually have your best interest in mind. But look at the world that you're in right now. And why would you trust that thing that created this world? It's like you'd have to deny and go like, oh, well, all the negative is just because of something to do with humans. But these humans that will be in heaven later, which, it's like a filtering process. Only the good ones get to go, or some bullshit. But then in reality, you look at it and it's like, yeah, but who actually is good?
Well, me.
So it's just this like this it's that magical point. It's like not actually looking at the reality of it. People say, I remember being exposed to this idea when I was studying a lot of, like, I don't know what you call it, alternative psychology type stuff, like Robert Anton Wilson and Timothy Leary and all that kind of stuff. And this idea of like magic, right? And magic is just technology that we don't understand yet. Like they would have called a cell phone magic back in the day or whatever. Okay, yeah, I understand that. Like, they don't understand it, so they call it magic. Kind of like we're talking about ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
But then the problem is people use that to justify a fantasy that they have. Must be true, because it's probably just technology we don't understand yet, but they don't have any evidence that the thing actually works. You know what I mean? Like some idea, like, well, if you just imagine what you want, it'll happen. Like, oh, you just don't understand. That's just how, like, that's just a technology you don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, they utilize this idea that, okay, technology would have been called magic before. So then things that I just want to be true that seem magical now are probably just scientifically accurate. We just don't understand the science of it yet.
Right.
But it's actually like a suppression of actual, like, accountability of, is this thing real or not?
Ooh.
Like heaven, right? Good.
Just what you just said there triggered. I was talking with someone at our clubhouse yesterday, And I like to hear from everybody, like, hey, share one piece of value that you got from what we discussed today. And this person said, ignorance is bliss, right? And I was like, is it really? And he's like, well, if you actually look at it, ignorance is bliss is like, people will be ignorant, meaning like ignore reality, ignore the truth, because it makes them feel better. And so they're seeking like this bliss. That's the ignorance is bliss part. It's not actually, it's like they're just seeking out the feeling of like feeling good. And so they'll allow themselves to be ignorant, not just dumb, but like ignore reality, you know? And yeah, just what you said had just kind of reminded me of that. I thought it was
Yeah, just
really well said.
just being trapped in that positive thing. And
Yeah.
and it's like I mean, I see why that's why so many people justify God or justify heaven, is because they have a feeling that feels good. They can't explain it, and they've associated it with some image or idea or word, such as God or heaven or whatever. And it's like, therefore it is good because I feel good.
Okay, but even beyond that, they don't actually feel good all the time.
Yeah.
Well, of course, they just have moments of feeling good.
But it's actually based on a fear.
Yeah, fear of hell.
Feeling bad.
Yeah, it's actually based on fear of knowing what we're all accepting and allowing at a very deep level, knowing that. And then the positive point is just used to cover that up. So it's kind of like a justification. Well, there is a point where I feel good about it. It's like
That
when I
is
go to
fucking
church and I release
crazy.
and I dance and I release and I love you, Lord, and I accept you, Jesus, and I feel good for that moment because I'm like kind of going into the positive point. But throughout your week, you're not feeling that. You're actually feeling really negative. Like you hate your job, you hate your wife, you hate your kids, all that stuff. And then, the release of all that guilt and stuff. That's the positive point. But it's not real positivity. It's not like throughout your day you're feeling actually blissful and like so good about what you're doing and how everyone else is living and existing. It's just a momentary point of feeling good from a release of negative points.
Right.
So
That
it's
was
not real feeling good. Yeah.
that was one of the most valuable things I learned early on. I mean, I'm still going through like really understanding the full picture of it, but like studying Heaven's Journey to Life and really looking at destiny, of seeing how we go from just being like a substance here to then the negativity and then the neutral and then the positive. And I was always just coming for like, I mean, ever since I first heard anything about psychology, motivation, anything, it was like, oh, okay, positive, be positive, great. So you focus on the positive, avoid the negative, or kind of use the negative to feel positive. And I was missing the whole fact that that was all a giant fucking energy thing. It's not actually who you are. Like who you are can be expressed in that, but who you are at a base level is like the physicality substance thing that's here. And then you like fuck that whole thing up by going into negative, neutral, positive.
Because it's all about manipulating the positive to manipulate people to enslave them.
Yeah. And to enslave them
Right.
the greater thing that's here, to trap
Right.
it.
And so it's like Bernard said, that psychology is the logical psycho, meaning you're using a logic to be psychopathic. It's like, no, the logic makes sense. If you're positive, then you'll get positive things coming to you. So you're using this form of logic, but in reality, the starting point of it is psychopathic. Because it's not about actually creating what's best, it's about enslaving people.
That's so
man, it was
funny.
this point I was looking
Holy
at.
shit.
I was looking at this point with the contrast between a person who's like, the average, 99.999% versus the elite, like you look at like a Rothschild or somebody like that, whoever, and it's like, I'm trying to remember what the point was that I was seeing within it, but it's like, it was something I was looking at. I'm trying to remember what it was recently. Oh, no, I know what it was. Okay, this is what it was. It was okay. You know that Richmond north of Richmond song that everyone's talking about right now, right?
Yeah.
This guy. And I saw something, I saw like just like a, what do you call it? A thumbnail or whatever, saying something about him turning down like an $8 million contract or something, like he got offered. I don't know the details of it, right? But and it was like the thumbnail said something about turning down $8 million and turning to scripture because, you know, at one of his performances, he's like started off by reading something from the Bible or whatever, right? And it's just playing into that idea instead of it being about real solutions, because the guy's got the sentiment that a lot of people are feeling of like, I'm fucked, I don't have any money, I feel bad, I'm just drinking all the time and I'm angry and I'm suppressing all of it. You know, like people are feeling that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's because of all these rich people and, you know, politics and all this stuff.
Blame.
But the moment the guy gets offered money, right? It's like, well, hey man, you want to be a rich man too? You know? And he's like, no, I'm turning to the Lord. And I don't know his actual point. I'm just looking at how it's promoted in the algorithm, right?
Right.
So everyone's like, look at him, he's got such principles. Like, but wasn't he just complaining the whole time about how he didn't have enough money?
Yeah.
And so he's not going to take the money. Okay. So he's going to turn to the Lord. Well, if that's the solution, then why the fuck was he complaining about not having money in the first place? And where in the Bible does it talk about the solution to this problem?
Right.
So you could see how even a cool point where, like, you know, this guy's got some cool points in his song and people are relating to it, it will be manipulated just like Jesus, just like anything is manipulated to just put people into a further point of not having any responsibility for changing. Do you know what I mean? Like what is this guy? I'm not blaming him individually, but his song is becoming popular. People are fed up. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what's the solution? Get rid
Well,
of all the rich
actually,
people.
hang on. Actually,
Is that it?
wait. I heard there is a solution coming or proposed. It's not a
Okay.
solution. It's not a solution. But it is the answer apparently going around on TikTok. Because remember that video, like Tim Pool did a video on this woman who was basically saying like, I'm working, I just got a new job, I make 40,000 a year and I
Yeah.
can't afford rent, all that stuff. And she's like,
It
how
was
do
like
people
in
live?
Canada or something, right?
Yeah, in Canada. And like, you know, it's a really great point of like there's a lot of those videos coming up, right? Of like, I can't afford to live. Like this is bullshit, right? And so it's that same sentiment from this guy, the Richmond, north of Richmond. Well, somebody had said, oh, I was bringing up this point yesterday and somebody was like, so like, are you talking about the September 1st thing? And I'm like, what's that? And they're like, oh, well, there's supposed to be a strike September 1st. That like what's going around on TikTok is everyone saying on September 1st, we're going to strike. Don't go into work. Don't pay your bills. And like, let's see, you know, how
Divide and
long they can
conquer.
last if we don't, comply with them. It's like,
Oh boy.
okay, but
Hold
what
on, hold on,
happens?
hold on. Yeah.
What
You don't
happens?
pay your bills. So the guy who works for the electricity company doesn't get paid.
Right,
So
exactly.
he doesn't have any money. It's like,
So the first question was like, okay, what
we'll
happened
show
September
them.
2nd?
We'll show these idiots.
Right. What happened September 2nd? Well, I'm going back to work because that was
You know what though?
nice.
Hold on, check this out. I was looking at this point. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about you know, the whole idea of people like investing and so forth, and how, you know, the small person trying to invest is like, oh, he's making a really cool point. Actually, it's Trey. You guys know Trey. He's making this point about how he knows somebody who's like really big in investing, like a big player in investing. And the guy was telling the story about Bitcoin because I was asking him something about his perspective on. Oh, we were just talking about cryptocurrency, and I was like, you know, I was saying I never invested in that stuff, and I was like, you know, how would you even know when to get out? You know, how do you know? It's not even a thing like some particular resource where you can kind of have some information, you know, of like, oh, well, this mine got shut down, so therefore, you know, something's going to happen to the price or whatever. Like, it's not even, and he goes, well, here's how people do it. He goes, when the teenagers or the average person on the street is talking about how great an opportunity is, he's like, that's when you get out. Right? He goes, because that means that the big players have pumped it up so much that then even the average person is involved with it, which means they're ready to pull out and, do it's like the pump and dump whole thing, right?
Right.
So I just thought, I don't know why I brought that up specifically in this context.
Because.
Oh, no, wait, here's why.
Okay.
Okay, let me go further. Yeah, there was more to it. Because he was saying, so he was like the big elite behind the scenes, he's like, they have such deep pockets in terms of how they're everything, right? So they can hold out for a long time.
Yeah.
It's like Bill Gates. You don't think he could wait 3 years and still have enough food? I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, he's probably got food stored somewhere for himself. You
Right.
know? And if you think you can outwait him, like, oh, we're gonna go on strike tomorrow, and he's probably just like, okay.
Right.
So it just doesn't. Anyways, I just want to add that point in because you're just like not realizing how
Well,
the system actually works. Yeah.
so this is apparently what's going around on TikTok is like, everybody don't go into work, don't pay your bills on, September 1st.
Sounds like a giant fucking psyop to just divide and conquer.
I'm like, how are these people even going to survive? Like, they're not going to last 2 days.
If
2
it's going
days.
around on TikTok,
Right.
Right,
any
exactly.
algorithmic
Pump and
thing,
dump.
what does that tell you? Because didn't they very easily suppress the whole Hunter Biden laptop thing, which was shown that it would have swayed the election actually. So
Yes.
they can suppress things if they want to.
Right. So this is like, let's get the idiots who'd be willing to do this to actually.
Don't you think China's like, hey, let's get all the idiot Americans to crash their economy and think that they're doing it to save their fucking economy?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Right.
It's going around on the Chinese propaganda tool. So
And my whole thing was like, okay, you don't even know where food comes from. Like you think you're gonna just go on strike? What's gonna happen at the grocery store? You think there's gonna be a run on the grocery store, and then where are they gonna get food from after that? Like because nobody else is working.
No, the grocery store, the grocery workers should still go to work. Remember how great everything worked out during the pandemic when everything was shut down? Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember
exactly.
how like the elite were like, oh, you know what? We need to do what's best for everybody and make everything actually equitable and and everything. Remember how that worked out?
Right. Yeah.
Remember how that worked out?
Everything is equitable now. That's it. We're here, guys. We made it.
The thing is, like, even if somehow the elite actually wanted to do that, it won't fucking work because top down, it doesn't work. Grassroots bottom up is a way to do it with education. Because right now, grassroots bottom up is skewed as, oh yeah, just go on strike on September 1st.
It's just a protest, exactly.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
actual real understanding and responsibility.
Right.
And it's still coming from a point of blame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. By doing something like that, like the thing you're talking about, wouldn't the elite be like, wow, we really need to punish these people, or we really need to control them more? We really need to
get this AI thing working.
It'll be used to be like, see, like this kind of terrorism that's occurring, just like the whole trucker protest. Yeah. How'd that work out, guys? I mean, didn't we tell you that wasn't going to work? Oh no, well, Justin Trudeau is going to da. It's like, what are you talking about?
I remember seeing I have a bunch of random fucking Facebook friends from, I don't even know how I get all of them. But I remember I saw this guy posting about the trucker protest. And there was like, he was like, yeah, I just have never felt such unity with my fellow Canadians. And it was like a big party in the street. And like, it was basically, it reminded me of like a giant fucking music festival where like people are taking drugs and shit. And so they're like, I just felt so unified with everyone for one big Saturday. So everyone got their pressure release. And then, okay, back to fucking work. And now anyone who's sticking around, you got to go to fucking jail.
That should tell you right there that whole point about that feeling of unity should tell you it's stuck because, well, think about it. Okay, so you're having this great feeling of unity and therefore you think something's happening, right? But look at actual things that actually happen in reality, like a skyscraper being built.
Right, or a law being passed or whatever they did with the executive orders.
But look at the skyscraper point for a moment, okay? Look at all the labor that goes into it and all the people who have to work and coordinate. What are they feeling?
Right.
They're not feeling all this sense of unity and that's how the skyscraper gets built and everything. No, they just they have jobs. they're being directed, there's a plan, there's actual things that have to get done. That's how reality fucking works. It's not based on your feelings of like, I feel great. That's like the whole Tony Robbins thing. You go there and you feel great, and then you go back home and nothing changed, because change doesn't happen from feeling a certain way for a moment.
Right. Or even
That's how you know
changing
you're
some
fucking
beliefs.
yourself.
Yeah. Or people are
Right.
like, oh, I shifted my beliefs. Now I'm more confident. It's like, okay, then what?
That's like the person who's comes on the self-perfected hangout or listens to the podcast, like, I'm already changing so much. I'm like, have you applied anything yet? You can't
Right.
just, so that would show you it's just energetic.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of, that's why people complain about cults, because just manipulating the fucking energy within the person, not actually like, okay, what are we here to do? You know, and that's why it's interesting that they would blame something like Scientology as a cult when it like actually does shit. And Christianity is not considered a cult because it really does shit. It's so effective in the system that you're like, well, it can't be a cult anymore. It's like, but it is obviously, but it's actually accomplishing things. It's making things happen. It fits in the system.
Well, the old system.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, people don't question it because it actually accomplishes things, whether they're best or not.
Right.
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 It's not just based on, it obviously manipulates the point of feelings and so forth, but it fits into the system that actually gets people to do things. So the system will not label it a cult.
Wow.
The reason why something would be labeled a cult and people would go with that is because it's all emotional. Right. Not saying that the thing itself is, because like that just depends on what it's actually doing. But the people will label it that way because they are either participating in that way, and that's why they became disillusioned. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I realized I was being manipulated. I'm like, okay, so you were in a cult and you were being manipulated. And now you've realized that. And so what are you doing now?
I'm telling people about the cult.
Starting my own cult to manipulate people.
Right. It's like, so you're not being manipulated now by the fucking economies and governments and all the other shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's just a way of pretending like you're suddenly, I've got that control of my life, you know? Like the
Right.
person who stops drinking and becomes sober because they did the AA or whatever, but they're really just like praying all the time and going to church all the time. They just switched from one drug to another.
Right. Instead of like actually just realizing fucking common sense is, you got to make sure that every kid, at least 10% of the kids right now, get a really fucking effective vocabulary. They understand what reality is. They work together on solutions. And then over time that accumulates. It's like, that's actually being in touch with reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, or we could just drink some fucking Kool-Aid and try and feel good.
I'm not for Kool-Aid too. That's
And
cool.
then go get a job on Monday morning. Well, strike on September 1st.
Strike on September 1st.
Okay, we got that right.
September 2nd, go into work.
September 2nd. I haven't thought
September-
that far ahead.
September 2nd, drink Kool-Aid.
Oh, there.
No, you're supposed to do that. Well,
Yeah, exactly. What happened September 2nd?
just like Power of Now, Cameron. Okay,
Labor Day weekend.
Power of Now.
Labor Day weekend.
Easier now.
Striking on Labor Day. No labor on Labor Day, guys. Come on. That's the message that we're
But I
sending.
will just scroll mindlessly on TikTok for at least 4 hours and just be manipulated.
Yeah.
Now that what really pissed them off is if the TikTok people went on strike.
They're like, fuck, how do we coordinate our strike?
Imagine.
Right. It's like, oh, my cell phone's not working. What's going on here? It's like, yeah, they didn't go to work.
Yeah, you'd be pissed then. You'd be fucking pissed then.
Yeah, and it's then easy, and I mean it's pretty fucking funny to like talk shit about it because it is so ridiculous. But at the end of the day, it's like our whole starting point for this is to help people see like how ridiculous it's got. To then also see like the solution isn't really that fucking complex.
But also the solution requires work, like every day, right? Within yourself, actually doing the
course, yeah.
process, using the tools, because we have to move ourselves out of that mindset of, oh, it's just magic. Like I just want
just
things
energy.
to change and then they change.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, no, you actually go fucking talk to someone, understand where they're at, where they want to be, help them with that, and then over time show them the process to do the same. Power of 10. We were talking about this last night. It was really cool at our clubhouse. We had like, I don't even know how many people we had here, but it was great. Like we had discussion, and then afterwards we we're hanging out in the kitchen and like eating some food and everything. And like Pedro it was really cool. He was explaining like Power of 10 to people who had never heard it before. And it was like really well received. And now he's like got plans to actually show them like, okay, this is actually how we do it though. It's one thing to now feel good about, oh, Power of 10. Yeah, great. You guys do it. It's another thing to actually see, oh, wow, this is how I can do it. And it actually makes more sense to do this than the other shit I was doing. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I just really like that point that Jessa brought up on Friday of like how people will be so obsessed with their sports teams or whatever it is that their obsession is. Like, imagine if we were all, like everyone in this group was as obsessed with their process, with self-perfection, you know, with like actually like, yeah, I got up this morning because, you know, I had to read the blogs, man. I had to read the blogs. Did you know this blog? Like, you know, like really getting into it. Like I listened to the Equat and I just learned this thing, or I did my self-forgiveness. I did my technical, like all that, just like being that obsessed where you're just like, and it just completely shifted. And then I just started doing that because, you know, that's what I got to do. I got to just do it. I got to apply it. I can't just talk about it. Like I had the cognition. I just fucking did it. And then like, man, you need to be doing this. And like just sharing that actually with other people. If everyone had that level of obsession.
It really is. It's the tree of life. For anyone who's seen the brochure, if you haven't seen the brochure, go to a clubhouse so you can see it. It's that obsession of that, yeah, education, the equality, you know, the sharing, so on and so forth. It's like as you're really living those words and that comes through, it's really fucking cool. It's really fun to be around because we've built a pretty cool community around here. We're still at its infancy, but it's like so much fucking fun because it's not just then, because sometimes people can go into the whole like, oh yeah, well I was studying this, and they get all technical. It's like, if you want to get technical about the blogs or what you realized, okay, cool, we can do that for a moment, but then how are you applying it? And what's really cool is then we're talking about the applying it, and we're doing the applying it, and you're like sharing war stories and stuff. And like Pedro's telling me stories of like when he's out door knocking and like how he's getting through to families and stuff and building the office. It's like, that's fucking fun. And it's going to just keep growing because I fucking apply myself every day. I can speak for me, and I know you guys too, but it's like, again, there's no fucking spectators, no sidelines. Be in the fucking game. It's way better that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right.
speaking of that, I have to jump because we have like breakfast and stuff here, and I got some people.
Well, let's leave it at that then.
Yeah.
So
The power of wow.
the power of the Kool-Aid.
The power of
Power of September 2nd. The power of labor.
Going into labor.
Going into labor.
Good times. Well, I don't know, but I watched.
Hilarious. It's good times for you and I. For us, guys.
I mean, hey, we were part of the initiation of it, and then 9 months later.
Right. There you go. The good times.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
So yeah, we'll see everybody next week. Bye.
Cool. See you.